You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Burke, and I'm the president of the board of directors of Ithaca Hours. Well, Ithaca Hours is a local money. It's a money that we make here in Ithaca, and the idea basically is a way to help to keep local money in this area, to help small businesses that compete with large chains. It's also a way for individuals to earn money in what we call in America moonlighting. Your second job, maybe, if you have a skill to do something, you know, maybe paint houses or repair cars or write or play music, and you know, it's a skill that you have that you know, it's difficult for you to advertise, so the local money makes a networking between people. It creates an entirely new revenue stream. It makes money for people to spend, because the situation in the United States is that, you know, 90% of the people who work, even people with good jobs, they live paycheck to paycheck. They don't save money. This year in the United States, for the first time since the Great Depression, this rate of savings was negative savings. So we had the idea that if there's not enough money, I mean, we know that people need things, and we know that other people have the resources to meet those needs. The only thing that's missing is the money to connect them. There's no extra money. So we thought, well, if that's the whole problem, that's the easy problem to solve, we'll just make money. When it started, it was very much among like the politically progressive community, who liked the idea. You know, it's a little iconoclastic, it's rebellious, you know, we make our own money. That's where you might find your initial base. People who are educated, who are, you know, maybe a little bit progressive. Yeah. But the thing is, what we have found is that that's only a certain percentage of the population. And then what do you do? And so we sort of have had this problem in Ithaca, where we've maybe maxed out that number, that part of the population. So now there's everybody else, which is it's 50 times more people, you know. So now how do we reach them? Because now they have the idea that, like they'll say, oh, that's the hippie money, right? The hippie money, which we could do without. Because you can use it as a way to communicate with people who don't think the same way that you do, you know? Yeah. Like somebody who votes for George Bush, right? Now, if we try to sit down and talk about Iraq or talk about George Bush, you're not listening to each other, right? Exactly. You know? But if I go into the store next door to me and I begin to talk to him about, look, this is a money that we use here, everybody needs money, right? It doesn't matter what your political thing is. So it's a way for people that if they realize, I mean, I have had conversations with a local businessman, and, you know, I could tell that he had this idea that this is hippie money, and I said, look, I know that's what you think. Yeah, and you're too polite to say it, and I appreciate that. And I said, but I'll tell you something, you know, like in the year 2000, I voted for Ralph Nader, you know, and you maybe voted for George Bush, and we could sit here forever, and you're never going to convince me that I should vote for George Bush, and I'm never going to convince you that you should vote for Ralph Nader, or say I voted for John Kerry in 2004, the Democrat. But I'm not under the illusion that John Kerry cares about me one bit. You know, he doesn't. He cares about his corporate people who give him all the money. That's who he cares about, and I'm under no illusion. So the only thing I would ask you is don't be under the illusion that George Bush cares anything about you, because you may respect him and everything. He doesn't care anything about you, but I do, because you live next door to me. Your business is next door to me, and I care that you can, you know, you have clothes and you can fix your car and you can send your kids to school. And see, that's what I think is that when people begin to work together with something like this, then maybe they say, hey, you know, those people who started this money, who talk about global warming and they talk about that, then maybe they're not so bad. Crest of interest in local currency, because there is this idea about buying local. I mean, it's very, very it's philosophical, but it's also very practical in a country like America, where, you know, you're buying a pound of carrots and you feel good because they're organic, but they came from California to New York, you know, so you're, you know, all this fossil fuel that you're burning. So people are starting to get the idea that this is, you know, it's a ridiculous system for the planet. It's also a ridiculous system where you've got a guy who's growing fields of carrots 10 miles away from here, but you're buying them from California instead. If you're going to spend money at a, you know, in my store where I sell music, You know, and Bruce Springsteen has a new CD. You can buy it here, or you can buy it at Borders, which is a big chain. And you know, if you buy it at Borders, now they have their headquarters is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So whatever other reasons there might be to spend the money, you know, if you take that money and you spend it at Borders, some of it is going to Michigan and it's never coming back to Ithaca. So that's some of our money that is going away and is never coming back. So that's the idea where we keep it local. I mean, it seems strange to people. It seems like it's radical, maybe it's criminal. How could it be legal? Why would the government give up that control? But when you think about it, they do it all the time. You know, if you use a credit card, even if you sign a check, you know, that's a piece of paper that somebody is accepting for $10. What about airline frequent flyer miles?
It's the same.
Yeah. That they're saying, okay, when you spend $10,000 with us, we give you $1,000. What's different about that? There are many places where the government does give up its control, as long as you're paying taxes. That's the only thing they care about is taxes and counterfeiting. We have been able to create new programs that help people more and more. Like we have a loan program now where we make interest-free loans to businesses. There's no application fee. There's no interest. And we do that because, you know, our mission is to help small businesses. Often people will ask us, well, why don't you make some kind of application fee? Why don't you make some kind of interest? And we say, well, we're not interested in making money on money. That's one of the things we're against. Exactly. And we also do things where we do community grants to different, you know, arts groups and school groups and youth groups, elderly people, you know, we do things like that. And then there are also just philosophical things about it, like the nature of money, you know, because probably where you're from too, but in America for sure, money is the one taboo. It's the thing that people don't talk about. You turn on television and people talk about their sex lives, and they talk about they're on drugs and everything, and abusive relationships. They talk about everything, but they don't talk about money. You know, we don't talk about money, and it's something that separates people very much. So we have the idea that money can be something that brings people together if it's based not on like scarcity, but on sharing. Maybe seems like a very deep philosophical thing, but we see that it works because, say, you know, when somebody comes in here and they ask me, you know, oh, you take Ithaca Hours, can I use Ithaca Hours? And they open up their wallet and they take Ithaca Hours, and it immediately starts a conversation. You know, where you say, oh yeah, great, you know, how do you get your hours? Or how long have you lived here? Or what do you do? And that doesn't happen with you know, Visa card. Yeah. You know, somebody said, do you take Visa? Oh yeah, I have a Visa card too. Where did you get yours? You know, how long have you been a Visa member? You know, as we're working with a group in New Orleans. We had the idea that this would be a perfect system for them there because there's all this devastation, and there's all these people who need things. You know, like maybe my business, you know, I have a wall that's falling down, and I need to repair it, but nobody has any money there. You know, and I might know that there's a construction company around the corner, or there's a guy who does work, but I don't have the dollars to pay him. He needs the work, but he can't find anybody who can pay him. So we communicated with a group down there about bringing the system that would be perfect. In Japan, they have figured out that this is a good thing, exactly what you're describing. In Japan, we get visitors from Japan probably once a month because they have about 40 different currency systems that the government sponsors because they've figured it out. That if you've got, say, 40 different cities who have a local currency that they use for their daily activities, buy a book, buy a record, buy a meal, hire somebody to do your lawn work, that kind of thing, then that's national currency, yen, I guess it is over there, that they don't have to spend. They can save it, or they can use it for other things. So just like you're saying, we're creating more money. So now everybody has more money. They can use that money locally, keeps the local economy healthy, and at the same time, like I say, the $20 in Ithaca money that they spend, that's $20 in American money they can save. You know, people will say to us, well, with what you're doing, how do you know what you're doing? You know, like how do you know how much money to issue, or, you know, this and that? And we say, well, we do it exactly the same way as the Federal Reserve does everything, which is we guess. We just guess. That's what they do, you know.
I hope someday